Take two, exactly. Take two. So I'm hoping that it's just a bit of a technical glitch. I'm hoping that this method that Ryan and I have just spoken about on the phone is going to happen. But anyway, thank you for everyone that's logging on and joining at the moment. This is an Instagram live, something that I've actually not done before. As far as I'm aware, Ryan hasn't done either. But it is a special because it's myself speaking with Crendon FC manager, Mr. Ryan Davis. So just waiting again to see whether he gets the notification. No. No, unfortunately, we have a technical issue, and we don't know why this is the case. So bear with us. I think we may have to look to do it potentially a different way, but it will unfortunately mean potentially you guys having to look at myself. So just bear with me. What I'm basically going to say to Ryan is let's do old school and do video call on the phone. And obviously we'll have to put it on the speakerphone so obviously you guys can obviously hear what he's saying, hopefully. So do bear with us. Because unfortunately, Instagram Live, for whatever reason, it's not working. But Jason has actually made a valid point, actually. So Ryan, if you can hear, obviously if you touch the screen on your device, it will send me a notification to say that you want access. And then obviously I can grant you it and we can hopefully crack on. But even everyone, happy Tuesday. Hooray! Yes! Come on! There we go. Can you hear me, Ryan, first of all?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Just moving the screen so we can sort of see each other. Right, there we go. We're only, what are we? Look at that. We're still in the first half. It's not a problem, is it? We're only like in the first 10 minutes. So, you know, nothing happens some games in the first 10 minutes, does it?
No, precisely no.
So, first of all, Ryan, massive thank you for struggling with that. But we're here, we're all sorted. And what I've sort of said to everyone at the moment, Ryan, is basically it's a big thank you to the people who are joining us. We've already got quite a few already logging in. Obviously, you're very, very popular.
They all just want to see me fall on my ass, to be honest with you.
Well, I've seen a few comments about fines potentially coming your way for lateness. So, you know.
It seems a little bit harsh, but, you know.
I think they're very lucky, potentially, it's not a match day. And so I'm sure you'd be having stronger words with them. So thank you again to everyone joining us. So this is Mr. Ryan Davis, Crendon FC manager, and obviously myself, Carl Catling, who's hosting this tonight. So the last couple of days, thankfully Ryan agreed to do this with me tonight. And we've got a list of questions for myself, but also from a few people, and actually even some of the sponsors of Crendon FC have also sent some questions in. So I might as well say, Ryan, first of all, how's your day been? Apart from obviously the last 15 minutes, which perhaps been a bit worrying and stressful, how's your day been?
Day's been absolutely crap, to be honest with you. I've been in the office, so it's been boring as anything. Okay. I can see I've got a few work colleagues and ex-work colleagues on here, so they'll know what I'm talking about. They know I'm never too cheerful when I'm in the office, so even less likely to crack a smile than on a match day, to be honest with you, Carl.
I'm glad you said that.
So I might as well. Someone else, otherwise someone else will get there first.
Yeah. So let's sort of rewind, because obviously it's only Tuesday, and obviously the boys put in a great stint, didn't they, on Saturday? So sort of reflecting back on that, Ryan, what can you sort of share with everyone about the result and performance of the team?
Performance on Saturday was brilliant, to be fair. I think it's probably one of our most controlled performances of the season. When you, even when we've been on top in games before, you always have a little bit of nerves, but I just felt like confident that we were going to kind of see it through. Took a little while to get the first goal, so we had to be a little bit patient. But once we got that, they missed a decent chance, kind of first minute of the second half, and really that was the only time they kind of troubled us all game.
Okay.
So yeah, we just really composed. I wouldn't say we were. I'd say we were like an 8 out of 10. But all over the pitch, I think everyone was good on Saturday. So it was a really pleasing win, especially considering the run we're on at the moment.
Absolutely.
It's nice to see us just looking confident and winning games like that quite comfortably.
Yeah, I mean, obviously as manager, it doesn't get much better than that, does it? You know, when everyone basically is doing a job, Josh in goals, you know, not really being tested in a game like that on the road. That's phenomenal. So, I mean, obviously, I think Josh was actually wearing his new gloves, wasn't he, for the first game? So by the sounds of it, did he even touch the ball with his hands?
He had to make an important punch, I think, early in the second half. But no, he didn't have a lot. He didn't have many saves to make. The defence has been looking solid, and we've had to make quite a lot of changes there recently.
Yes,
we've had a fair few injuries and absentees there, so we haven't really had a settled back three or back four for a while now. So it's nice that we've kept a few clean sheets lately, with considering we've had quite different personnel.
Yeah, yeah. It's been obviously the games I've been able to come and watch myself. Yeah, I've always been very, very impressed with how the boys have sort of slotted in, especially at the back, because you know it's very, very difficult with injuries at any level. But at non-league, you know, in the squads, you know, they're not very, very deep.
No, we've got decent sized squad, but like most teams, most kind of squads at this level, you get 2 or 3 injuries and it does stretch you quite a bit. So, but it makes it all the more pleasing because some of those boys who've come in have been crying out for an opportunity and have been kind of chewing my ear off. So when they come in and do well, it's good for them, but it's good for everyone, really.
Yeah, definitely. So we have to touch on this, don't we? Because how can we leave this out? Jack Gould. So what can you say about his performance on Saturday and basically this just incredible start that he's had for the club?
Yeah, hell of a debut, to be fair. I think I first chatted to Jack in the summer, so he was someone we were kind of had our eye on for a little bit. And he wanted to kind of stick it out with Kidlington and try and push to get in their first team. And so when the opportunity came up recently to get him, that was brilliant. And we know, obviously, in the summer, well, we lost Christian going back for his final year at uni, Harry Pettingill as well. So we had a lot of pace going forward, and we kind of, with those two going, we've lacked that a little bit, and we had to become a little bit more direct, probably a little bit more dogged to start the season. So Jack obviously gives us a lot of pace and directness to play out wide, centrally, or kind of all across the front line, really. And he'd had a decent couple of chances before he scored, and even his first goal, he admitted afterwards when he came off that he probably should have done better, but luckily followed it in, stuck it away. Second goal was a great finish, just a really tidy finish. And then obviously penalty, and Nathan's obviously out injured at the moment, so although we've had penalty shootouts kind of, it seems like every other week this season, no one really wanted to stick their hand up on Saturday for it. And so when Jack was on too, it was obvious for him to go and grab the ball and smashed it in, hat-trick. Can't really say much better than that on your first start.
No, absolutely. You know, it's always great, isn't it, when a new player like that comes into the squad and it just clicks. It makes your life so much easier, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think we've been lucky this season. With a lot of the new boys have come in and have kind of hit the ground running. It doesn't always happen like that. Sometimes you have to be a little bit patient. But I think kind of the attitude and the people, the boys that we've got in the squad, everyone fits in really quickly. So whether they actually start doing it on the pitch straight away, sometimes that can take a few weeks before you get to know people and how they play and to fit in. But I think they fit into the kind of squad and the dressing room really, really quickly. So that usually helps them hit the ground on the pitch.
Yeah. Now, Ryan, before we touch on some perhaps more personal questions, I think we should mention this, although it's an interview with you, because it's still on Crendon FC. I mean, we have to plug Crendon ladies because obviously they had a big county cup game on the road, and they've done an incredible job to get through that, especially when they're 1-0 up. And obviously Ellie put the side into the lead, and obviously went to penalties, and they come through that. So, I mean, how much of the involvement or perhaps dialogue do you have, obviously, with the coaching side, Eric and Rich, in regards to the ladies' team?
Not loads, to be honest. I mean, they do a great job. I wouldn't want to take any of the kind of reflected credit for how well they're doing over the last couple of years. It's been unbelievable to kind of start from nothing, having a completely new squad to win the league and get promoted twice, and then be right up there again this season. They do brilliantly. So, no, I don't have a big involvement, but obviously you take a big interest, and I think it's just becoming more and more a part of every kind of club at this level. And so it's nice that it feels like we've got taken.
Rightly so.
Yeah,
it should be as well.
But it feels like we've jumped a step ahead of some other clubs, other bigger clubs. Like when you look at some of the names that the ladies are playing, they're often kind of bigger clubs than we would be. So
I know what you mean.
I definitely feel we've got the jump on a few teams in the area on the ladies' side of things. And I must admit, I'm as kind of cynical as anyone. But when I watch them train and the games that I've seen, I've been massively impressed. I went to watch the FA Cup game earlier in the season, which sounds ironic because that's obviously one of the few games they've lost over the last 3 years. But I was like really, really impressed how they went up against the side a couple of levels above, and how well organised they were, and just the attitude and the football they played, just everything about it really, just really, really professional.
And good luck to them for the next game, actually. But I look forward to seeing them soon myself, because I know, like you just said, Ryan, the games I've been able to see them, I've been really taken aback by the commitment, and even the teamwork and the team ethic and everything between them all is just it's unreal. So fingers crossed that they remain up there and they keep the cup run going. Right, now let's go back to you. So, your favourite club and player. What can you tell us?
Favourite club is just on Crendon, really. I live and die by kind of Crendon's result. I'm not one of these people, like a lot of the boys come in the bar after the game and they're checking all the results and stuff like that. And that isn't really me. Like, it's like my week has been defined for years on how like I get on and what how when I was playing, how Chinna got on when I was playing for them mostly, and then now obviously now Crendon. Players wise, I was very slow forward, so I kind of admired like intelligent players who weren't that quick. So like people like Teddy Sheringham, Eric Cantona, those sort of players. Iniesta later on, just like thoughtful, intelligent kind of footballers, which I like to think that I was. Well, I had to be because I was slow as anything. So.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of the people on here have played with me, so they'll know I'm telling the truth about my pace.
Yeah, I'll wait for the comments to start coming through shortly then, Ryan.
Well, I still like to join in occasionally at training. It's pretty rare now when I get involved at training, but it's fair to say I'm past my best these days.
Yeah, and not being funny, the boys are obviously a bit younger, and as you say, some of them are a bit pacey, aren't they? So you don't want to go up against some of them.
It's ridiculous how it catches up with you, because probably like 2 or 3 years ago, I was still, when I first came to Crendon, I was still playing mostly off the bench and stuff like that, but I still felt like I could do a job with a lot of the boys around me because they were very young and fit. But unfortunately, getting promoted to this level, that kind of finished me off. Really, that was. I'm hoping. If you notice, I'm often named as an unused sub, but hopefully it stays that way for the rest of the season.
I haven't picked that up. I've not really looked that far down, Ryan. Hello, Skip. So Ollie's just joined as well. Late, but he's joined. You've already touched on it, Ryan. So you're sort of looking at your playing dates. So obviously you mentioned Chinna. So and obviously Crendon, but what other clubs have you played for? And in your playing dates, was there any sort of like either team achievements or personal achievements that really stood out for you?
Well, no, I played at Chinna virtually my whole career, really, other than a couple of short stints elsewhere. and we were very much mid-table, lower mid-table, sometimes near at the bottom of the table, dogged side. So there weren't many team achievements, to be fair. We got promoted out of the Oxford Senior League when I was quite a young player, when I was 22, I think. And I was top scorer in the league that season for Chinner. And then, I guess, personally, I think I'm still their record goal scorer in the Hellenic League for them. So, and
that's a good record to have.
I was the record appearance maker until Ben Taunton overtook me a couple of years back. Partly, I think it was just after I stopped managing as well, and I gave him quite a few of those appearances. So, very generous of me. But no, I loved playing for it. We had great team spirit there, but we always had quite a limited side, really. We had a lot of experience and good defenders. Not really the most creative side, and it wasn't always the most enjoyable side to play up front in. But I loved playing for them, played for them for years, was very loyal, captained them as well, and then obviously later on went on to manage them. I had one season over at Marley United, which is a Hellenic League as well, which I loved, actually playing with a lot of different boys. We finished second. It's so the equivalent league now, so it's step 6 in that league. But no, pretty other than not far off a one club man really, until I came to Crendon.
So how many years do you think it was then at Chinner? Playing?
Well, I started there at 18 and then kind of got in the first team about a year or two later, and then through till I was kind of 34, 35. So still trying to sniff around the first team at that age anyway. It wasn't always getting picked, but no, quite a lot of stints. So I played like best. I reckon I've probably played about. I have got the numbers somewhere, but probably not far off 400 games for them, I reckon.
Wow. But, well, maybe they need to create something in your honour, I think, at that football club. Not many players, even non-league level, can rack up that number of appearances.
No, there wasn't many. I was very lucky as well that when I was younger, there was a couple of, at least two, I think I had a 2-3 year run where I never missed a game. I was very lucky with injuries in those days. Unfortunately, it was just when I got kind of 31, 32, picked up the first couple of hamstring injuries. I was never really quite the same after that. But until then, I was really lucky. So, and I'm the sort of bloke who, and hopefully some of the players are listening to this, but I'd never take a holiday during the season or have some stupid excuse for missing a game. So I'd only ever miss one if I was injured, and I never got suspended because I've never made a tackle, so that was never going to happen either. But so yeah, it was quite easy to rack up appearances as long as I got picked, to be honest.
Yeah. So for those, we should say so for those that don't know, what was your position majority of the time?
Centre forward. So it's really weird actually. I played nearly the whole of my youth career as a right back. Very rarely anywhere else at all. I was pretty much just number 2. Right back, and we had very, very good youth side, and I was probably middling within that youth side. Wasn't one of the best, wasn't one of the worst, but usually got picked every week at right back. Then it's one of those standard things. You go to play men's football, you can run a bit, so they give you a little run in midfield or whatever. And then I remember scoring a couple of goals, and I got shoved up front for Chinner third team as it was at the time, and then had a little run scoring for them, and then the reserves got you, and then I had a really good season, scoring a lot of goals for reserves, and got kind of chucked in the first team, and then never really looked back. So I played most of my career up front until right near the very end, really, where I dropped in and played a little bit in midfield. But I was generally an out-and-out forward for pretty much the whole career, really. Okay.
And someone's actually just put this through in the comments. It's a great question to ask, being an ex-centre forward. Can you remember the most number of goals you scored in a season?
I can, because it stands out a mile, because I got 48 in one season.
Wow.
So at the season we got promoted from the senior league, so the first time Chinner got promoted to the Hellenic, I got 48 that season. 30, I think it was 34 in the league in 25 games. So, yeah.
So obviously top scorer in the league, surely.
Yeah, it was a lot harder those days. You had to buy the papers to try and find out who else scored. But I'm pretty sure I was that season.
So moving on.
I haven't planted that. I haven't planted that question, by the way.
I know, yeah. So thinking about, obviously you've already touched on it, obviously going into playing and and going into management. So how did that process start? How did you go from player to manager?
From Sunday side, actually. So it's really weird. When I was a young player, and I say this to a lot of the boys now, I was actually really quiet, and I never kind of really crossed my mind that I'd probably go into management. I was the one who kept his mouth shut in the change room and never really said too much. But I was always a thinker about the game. I always liked to play football management games on my computer and stuff like that. So I guess it was always there, but I didn't really think I didn't necessarily think I had the kind of personality to do it. And then kind of I always played Saturdays and Sundays throughout kind of playing days, and Sunday side opportunity arose to kind of be assistant manager to a good mate of mine, Ben, who was running the Sunday side then. And then after kind of 2 or 3 years of him doing it, he was like, "I want you to have a go." And so I did, and really enjoyed it. Obviously, Sundays is just, if anything, even harder because you've got dragging people out of bed and stuff like that, and trying to get people who've been boozed up the night before. But we had a great bunch of boys, and we had a really, really good side for a Sunday side. And to be fair, they were all reliable, I must admit. And some of the boys are probably on there now, but they'd love a drink on a Sunday night, but I always could rely on them to be there on a Sunday morning. Not necessarily in the greatest of shape, but they would never let me down. And yeah, I just loved doing it. And we were pretty organised, and we had some good success. We won a couple of cups and had good cup runs every year, and were up there in the league, and just really, really enjoyed it. But never kind of necessarily had it. At that point, when I was kind of doing that on Sunday, I'd started to fall out of favour in terms of Saturday football. I was getting to that age where I was struggling to get in the first team at Chinna. I was probably dropping a bit more down to the reserves, and didn't really think anything more of it. Dave Ridgely was managing Chinna then. He was doing a good job. He'd managed them for quite a few years now, having a little bit of success. And then it kind of, there was a little bit of a falling out with him and the Chinna committee. And it was actually through kind of speaking to Folly at the time. Folly was still playing for Chinna at that point, and he kind of sounded me out and was like, "Oh, they're looking for, like, Dave's going to move on. They're kind of looking for people who are maybe interested in doing the job at Chinna." And I was interested because obviously it was my club, but I was also kind of aware that they just had quite a successful period, but were probably getting a bit of an age inside. So the job itself potentially wasn't actually the most attractive, but it was one of those where, like, if I didn't do it at that point, then I might never get the chance to do it. I'd have regretted it, and I was kind of like, what's the worst that can happen if I go there and it turns out that I'm useless, players will hate me, or results are rubbish, or whatever? Well, at least I gave it a go, and then I can kind of move on and go shopping on a Saturday or something. But so yeah, that's where it kind of all kicked off from, really.
So how many years managing Chinna?
Just the one, which is basically what I'd recommend anyone doing at Chinna.
So is this tour of the Ryan Davis house? This cribs.
Well, sorry, I realised I needed a bit of lubrication for the old vocal cords.
Oh, steady on.
My mouth was getting a little bit dry. But,
okay.
No, I loved doing it at Chinna for that year, but I was kind of aware before I took the Chinna job that season that we weren't going to have as strong a squad as I probably would have liked. But with it being a first job, it was kind of, I didn't necessarily have the kind of player contacts to bring loads of people in. I tried my best, obviously, and realistically, we'd always found that throughout playing for Chinna, it was quite difficult to attract players from outside the area to play there. We had a great band of boys there who were very loyal and would play, and we'd work our socks off for each other, or they'd work their socks off, and I'd stand up front and moan at them. But we always had quite a small squad, and it was difficult to get people in from the outside. So I knew, like, when I took over as manager, that was going to be the biggest challenge. But I loved the season we had there, and we finished just below mid-table, so it wasn't awful. In fact, it's the highest they've finished since then. So, and we had a lot of good wins that season. Took a couple of good hidings as well. And I probably would have. I was all the season ended, and I was all kind of ready to. I wasn't even thinking of moving on really, and there was just a few things eating away at me with the committee. There wasn't loads of support, off the pitch support, and we can probably come on to that later talking about Crendon. But I felt like me and Gary was my assistant, who we loved it, but it felt like we were running it like a bit of a glorified Sunday side. We were doing everything, and it was just taking over. And I remember kind of catching him a bit by surprise, and in kind of around May time, and saying, oh, I'm thinking of jacking it in, to be honest with you. I don't really have that hunger to go and like talk to players this summer, organise pre-season friendlies and do all that sort of stuff. And so, I think he was, because we always just kind of talked about going on and doing another season, and it was just one of those. It's just a gut feeling, really. I just didn't really have the energy to carry on at Chinna, and I just thought it's better to do it now rather than kind of leaving them in the lurch after 2 or 3 games or something like that. So yeah, that was it. It wasn't like dramatic falling out or anything, but I wouldn't say that I felt greatly supported off the pitch either. So yeah, just one of those things, really.
Okay. So in a way, potentially, there's a couple of times you mentioned some off the field stuff. So it might link into these questions actually. So what are your likes and dislikes of being a non-league football manager?
Likes, pretty much most things, to be fair. I just love the planning element of it, thinking about the next games and how you're going to use the squad and stuff like that. Just winning games, obviously, looking at league, as I always say to the boys, they know I love to log on to the league table after a win and probably refresh that 100 times a week. But just always thinking about things that we can do better, whether it's tactically, maybe little things that we can do in training, although I wouldn't like to take much credit for that because that's kind of Rich's area usually. Whether it's bringing players in, kind of formation to tactical stuff, little mind games that we can do to be a little bit better. So I love all that side of it. The worst bit of it, 100%, is leaving players out of the side, and I'll never enjoy that bit, or I'll never get used to that, because one thing I like to try, I hope I do, and is form a good relationship with all the players. So I do see them all as mates, but you do have to have a little bit of obviously distance and kind of think about team selection with kind of an uncritical eye. But at the end of the day, when you leave people on the bench, sometimes you're ruining their Saturday, and it's not really it's not a great feeling. So, and the fact is, you need 18, 20 players if you want to have a successful season at that level. So over the season, you're going to disappoint people quite a lot. And I've definitely had games where you win a game, and at the end of it, the bit of the shine is taken off it because you know you've upset 1 or 2 people. So that is easily, like by miles, the worst bit of it. And I don't know, I'm sure there's managers who are a lot hardened, more hardened to it than me. Maybe it comes easier to them, but I would imagine for most people, if they've got a similar sort of personality to me, that would be without doubt the number one worst thing about managing a team.
So going back to the players side of things, so do you find it more difficult with the players being out the squad and being in your ear or whatever, when the team is winning or when the team is losing?
When the team's losing all day long, yeah. Because when the team's winning, everything kind of sorts itself out. And yes, people aren't necessarily happy, but it's more difficult. You can still take their views on board, and I don't kid myself. Just because we win games doesn't mean I've got everything right. And likewise, when we lose, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm useless and I've done everything wrong. I think one of the things I've learned about management is that if I play a 5-10% part, then I'm doing my job. Most of it comes from the players, win or lose, but it's 100% easier when you're winning, because everything is just more enjoyable. And yes, you might have the odd person, but I think it reflects more on the player's character if they can't enjoy a win and they're thinking more about themselves. So whilst I still understand if someone feels like they've been left out harshly or whatever, you'd like to think that they still at heart care more about Long Crendon than any kind of personal like feelings about the decision that I've made or whatever. In reality, that's not going to happen. And I know I've sulked as a player before, so I can't take the moral high ground and say that I was a model player all the time. So I completely get it, and I try and walk in their shoes as much as possible. But like I say, on a Monday morning, if you've got 3 points, everything just looks a bit better in the world.
Thanks for that. Now, as much as we'd all love to be professional football managers and coaches and players and all that, sadly that's not the case, is it? So what does your average week look like? So obviously you have your day job, but then in terms of the football, what does that week look like?
Football literally takes over everything. It's like I always say, I mean, I'm joking about it with my girlfriend, but it's kind of only a joke because it's true. It's like, if I wish I had the same passion. I hope my bosses haven't logged on, but I wish I had the same passion that I did for my actual job that I do for kind of managing and getting and winning for Long Crendon, because I'd probably be able to retire in a few years. But it's just there wouldn't necessarily be a typical week, but things always blindside you. It's like, a standard week would obviously you might be having a midweek game. So say you're planning kind of that from as soon as Saturday's over, win or lose, you're probably thinking about your squad for a Tuesday night game, and if not, you may be thinking ahead to the next Saturday or whatever, and you maybe know that one or two are unavailable, or you've got injuries, you've maybe got some people coming back. I'll be thinking about like what we want to do at training. If Rich is away doing on one of his weeks when he does the ladies, I might be thinking, I've got to take training. What do I want to put on there? Is it going to be a hard session, light session, make it fun, whatever? Then you might have a couple of players who are unhappy with you. You might have messages from players asking where they fit into the squad, if you know what I mean. On another case, times you might be kind of trying to attract someone new to the club. You might be dealing with a lot with kind of the reserve team manager. The reserves obviously haven't been having great results kind of lately, so there's some kind of issues to deal with there in terms of maybe availabilities of their players. You might be liaising. You've got some players on the fringes you want to give game time, so kind of chatting to them, but weighing up kind of all-round availability for the whole club. As Folly says, dealing with 1,000,001 calls from him. I'm glad
you said that.
I've always got Rich twisting my arm for about 3 or 4 admin things that I've forgotten to do, and that I'm usually about 2 weeks overdue on doing. So there's always stuff going on. But again, it kind of comes back to what I said before. I don't think I'm never bothered if you're on a good run. Like at the moment, I could work 24/7 on it because we won 5 games in a row. But like go back to we have 1 defeat, and I won't want to look at the league table. I won't want to do any of the other stuff. I will still do it because you have to, but it won't. At the minute, it's just like when you're enjoying your job. It doesn't really feel like work, but as soon as you're in a bad mood or something, then you don't want to do it.
And we'll touch on it quick, actually, if that's all right, Ryan, because you literally just dropped it in. So the league table is looking pretty good at the minute, isn't it? 7th, and there's like games in hand, and there's not much separating from even like 8th going up to 3rd, is it, at the moment?
It's looking really good now, yeah. I think I've always said it, and from every job I've been in, and certainly since I've been at Crendon, I don't really set a target on what I want us to achieve over the season, because I don't know the capabilities of the other teams and what we're going to face in the league. So it's unrealistic just to say that I expect us to go and win the league or finish anywhere. Maybe if I had a budget that I knew was the biggest in the league, then yeah, I could say we'll go and try and win the league. But often, like, you sat there in summer and it seems like every other club's signing like 100 players, and you're like, oh wow, we'll do well to finish like 3 off the bottom in this league. But when it comes down to it, when the season starts, it's 11v11, and you've got as good a chance as anyone. But yeah, we're feeling quite optimistic at the moment. Obviously, I think if we kind of win that game in hand that we've got, we'd be in fourth. It's playoffs down to fifth this season. So after a kind of inconsistent start where you're probably thinking, like, if we finish top half this season, that'll be good. Now, obviously, your expectations start to rise, and hopefully the boys feel the same. But we're not going to go the rest of the season without losing a game or anything like that. So I said that the biggest thing this season is to be resilient, and when we have a bad result, bounce back well and not get on a losing run, which we haven't done. But we couldn't get on a winning run really before this, but now we're on one, and the confidence is up. And Saturday was the first time really where I've kind of seen, I mean, don't get me wrong, I thought the week before was an even bigger result because I thought they were a much better team, but Saturday was like a proper performance where we just turned up as if we were a superior team to them and played like it with the confidence. No arrogance about us, but just did a job and just all over the pitch. I think every one of our players looked better than theirs did, but with the attitude combined and everything as well. So if we can just keep that up, then hopefully we can get on a good run. But it's not easy to do it. So I think I just always celebrate each victory as it goes along, and then if you do that, then suddenly it can be like 4, 5, 6, 7 games or whatever. But if you look too far ahead, then that's when you come unstuck, basically.
I mean, I think whatever happens, and it's easy for me to say potentially as from an outsider, but when the players and obviously you as manager are doing the day-to-day stuff, obviously you've got all that focus there, and so that going on to the next game, the game after that. But I think what people and even the players potentially don't realise is actually they're sort of making history for this football club, because a good season. And this is, potentially the highest the club has ever finished in the league in its whole history.
Yep, definitely. I've said that to them all along. Like the last few years, like being in the FA Vars was that big thing for us. And then we won our first game in that, and then something I'm proud of. The 3 years we've been in it, we've won our first round game in that every time, which is a big deal for us. Obviously, being in the FA Cup for the first time, then we won our debut game in that. This will be our first. I think everyone forgets because we've kind of played at this. Feels like we played here for a while, but this will be our first completed season at Step 6. Yeah. So for us to even be thinking about being towards the top of the league, it is a big deal. And look, it's Step 6 football. I don't want to pretend that I'm been a top level manager or whatever, or get ideas above my station. But at local football, it is a big deal, and like Crendon haven't ever done anything like this before, and we've got a lot of the players who were with us kind of 4 or 5 years ago. So that's what is really pleasing to me, that it's not like we've got a load of players. I thought this season might be a bit transitional because for a variety of reasons we had to bring in quite a lot of new players, but a lot of those players that we've kind of brought in were not necessarily getting a look in elsewhere and the clubs they were at. So it's not like we're going out and getting star players from everywhere else. And I had a lot of opinions about some of those players, especially young guys, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing, if you know what I mean. I'm like, people make judgments on people who are kind of like 20, 21 years old, and there's so much kind of talent and ability in the side. But my main concern was that it might be like a season too early to actually show it. And the start of the season, it did look a little bit like that. We were a little bit inconsistent, but now I think you're seeing like a really young side go, kind of believing in themselves and starting to go really well.
Hopefully more of the same. And it's pleasing because obviously, I've known the Ashworth boys for a number of years now, and it's so pleasing to see. I'll name drop George. There you go, George. I've name dropped you. But to see the level he's playing at, and equally just how happy he is, it's just unbelievable. So well done to you, Ryan, and obviously all the boys really, because to raise a player like that, and it just rubs off on each other, and that's what I think we're sort of seeing day to day in the results, isn't it?
Yeah, so, he's a good example. Scott as well. Nath
just waved.
Obviously, Nath Nathan, Sims, Scotty, those players coming in. Josh as well in goal, if you know what I mean. Both Josh and Nathan hadn't been treated great by Aberdeen United. George and Scotty at Tame. And so Shrimps as well, a bit, despite being a more experienced player, obviously at Westbrook before that. And so there's a lot of players who were probably a little bit disillusioned when they kind of came over to play for us. And I think we're getting the best out of them. And like I say, I'll just go back to the fact that I hear a lot of stupid opinions around football and stuff like that, and people have said things that I would never repeat about those sort of players, if you know what I mean, or about the sort of level that they could reach and stuff like that. And they must not be watching the same game as me, because I think that they're unbelievable players. I wouldn't want them to be anywhere else, and hopefully they can go on. Well, hopefully they can play for me for a number of years, because I don't want to lose them. But I feel like there's potential for them to push on way past probably what I even expected them, let alone like. But it feels weird to me that like people can see a player of kind of 20, 21 years old and think that like, oh well, that's all they're going to achieve in their career, or that's the level they're going to get to. It's like I was a late developer, so maybe I get a particular bee in my bonnet. But if people had seen me at 18 and 19, and I didn't go on to play a great level, I only played step 6, but I was a decent enough player at that level. The difference between me at 18 to kind of 24 was chalk and cheese. So, and for me, I would like to invest in those boys. They've got great attitude, and just see how far they can go.
There you go. Up the Robins. There you go. So moving away from the field stuff, right? So let's just touch on it briefly, sort of off the field. So how involved are you in that?
Pretty minimal.
I mean, not just what you're sort of seeing and hearing, but equally, sort of the day-to-day side of things as well. Pretty
minimally, to be fair with you, Carl. And it's the way I like it, but it's nice that I'm allowed to do it.
Your concentration's on football.
Yeah, I need to big up 2 people really at this point. One, firstly, Gerald. Gerald was the first person I chatted to at Crendon. Obviously, I knew 2 or 3 of the boys who played for Crendon before I originally came over. Never met Gerald before, but he was the first person I chatted to about coming in. And from day one, obviously, I kind of assisted in that season, but he allowed me to kind of take a big role that season, like chat to the players, get involved in tactics, team selection, all that sort of stuff. And then when obviously I took over the next season, he's just allowed me to concentrate on the football stuff from day one and always express my opinion. If there's something that I want to do at the club, or I think we should be doing it in this way, he'll always listen to my opinion. He doesn't always necessarily have to agree. And I'm quite challenging on the football side of it. I want like the best for the players and things like that. And he will always try and accommodate that and just support me every step of the way. And one of the things, when obviously with him being a manager before, you're always thinking, how much is he going to get involved in that sort of thing? No, he just stepped away from that completely, in terms of there's never any kind of challenge to me about any kind of football issues and stuff like that. He's completely interested in it. He'll be there every game, or pretty much every game, do everything off the pitch. And I wouldn't be at Long Crendon if it wasn't for him, and I don't think he would be much of a club without him. And then obviously secondly is Rich. I mean, Rich is ridiculous, the amount he gets involved in at Crendon.
Yeah.
I don't even know half the stuff that he does.
I don't think he sleeps.
I don't even want to know. I think it's all legal, but yeah, I mean, I obviously brought Rich into the club. I knew Rich through work. Originally, I just said, "Oh, come down and watch a few games." That was genuinely it. And then, like, however many, like,
it's your fault, Ryan.
Yeah. 3 years down the line, I created a monster. But but yeah, his help to the first team is obviously completely invaluable. If he just did that, he'd virtually be club of the year every year. Let alone then the ladies stuff, every bit of admin he does, wiping basically all the players' asses the whole time. Not just in our team, but in the ladies' team. He's off watching the youth sides. I mean, the guy is literally ridiculous. I don't know where he gets energy from, to be honest with you. And so I think basically with those 2, that it makes my job easy. And I don't think they want me to get too much involved off the pitch, basically, because I'm probably too opinionated, really. So they'd rather I stay out of that bit. But it makes your life easier, because that is one thing. At Chinner, I did have to get involved in a lot more of the off-pitch stuff, and that just saps your energy. And you need that when you like to be there on a match day. You need to be energetic and looking forward to it. And I'm always buzzing for every match day, and I can't say that was the case at Chinner. And it wasn't that I didn't. I still love football, and I still was up for the games, but I just had to get involved in so much other stuff in between that you just got worn down in the end.
Yeah, that's why, the sort of volunteers and sort of grassroots non-league football is it's just so important. We can't sort of stress that enough. And as you say, the likes of Gerald and Rich, who give up so much of their time every day, don't they? 7 days a week, them two, to help. Obviously, the men, the women, the reserves, everything, the links into the youth, obviously Crendon Corinthians as well. So that's the sort of football aspect of the field, right? But I just want to plug someone at the moment, really, because I know he plays for the reserves, and we often see him on a match day behind the camera, and he does loads of video, and he has done for the last couple of years. So Liam Wing, I mean, how crucial has he been in the success of Long Crendon Football Club the last couple of years?
Wingy is a legend, and we're like, we hate it when we see him in the reserve squad, because we know we're not going to get any photos for our game. Honestly, it's just things like that. It literally makes it. It's like when you've had a win, you want to log on to Facebook, you want to see those photos. I mean, that one you keep bringing out of me, where it looks like I've put on about 30 stone.
Great. Very good.
Is obviously, I'm really thankful to him for that photo. But no, Wingy is just another guy who put so much effort into the club, especially this season. I mean, as you know from the way I tried to log on to this tonight, I'm not the most tech savvy and things like that, and I don't think I'm the only one. So I think Wingy, in terms of kind of our like media presence, along with yourself and Emma as well, have obviously made a big difference. And it was kind of a goal of ours that it really matters these days. Players want that sort of stuff, and I think players from outside see that, and if they see a Twitter account that tweets the result out every week or something really dull, it just doesn't really do it for them now. They want to see match highlights. We obviously made the investment in VO and stuff, and the photos and everything like that, and it all just makes a big difference in just kind of promoting the club. And we need that little bit of help, because we haven't got the history behind us of some other clubs at this level. And so I always say that's my excuse for why I can't get players in sometimes. It's like, oh, well, we're competing against clubs with a lot more history and a name behind them. But I think it is true. It's like we have to work a little bit harder to get our name out there at the moment, because other clubs have been playing at this level or higher for kind of decades. So yeah, Wing is absolutely invaluable.
There you go. So Wings Media, everyone. So do check out Liam's pages on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, because he does some cracking stuff with video, graphics. Obviously, his camera work as well.
Camera work's unbelievable. Camera work's unbelievable. Yeah. Dress sense appalling.
And I'm glad you mentioned Emma, because obviously those that don't know, so Emma Helmer's basically the Lucy Bronze of the Long Crendon ladies side at the right wing back position. She's unreal. She does not stop running, and obviously she does a lot of the sort of media officer work as well for the club, for the men, women's, and the reserves. So that's another person who spends hours every week off their own back to really push the club further. Yes, but now, as we've talked about media, we talked about football off the field. What about the commercial side? So some managers are very visible, and do take a lot of that in and like, oh, okay. And obviously, Long Crendon, basically year by year, and in particular the last few months, all of a sudden now there seems to be announcements every few weeks that there's now this new team sponsor, there's now this sponsor. I mean, how does that make you feel as manager of Long Crendon?
Pretty good, to be fair, because it is always the worry for us. Obviously, we're playing at Oxford City at the moment. Maybe hopefully we have our own ground at some point. But it's a costly exercise playing kind of there. It's so any money that we can get into the club from outside sources is huge for us, because otherwise you just constantly you can put on fundraising events and stuff, but eventually you're kind of rinsing the same players. And we're probably one of the only clubs at this level where players are being asked to pay money to play for the club. And I'm kind of pushing the club to move as fast as we can for that not to happen. But I'm also realistic enough to know that if that doesn't happen, then we can't afford to play at Oxford City, play at this level, and then the conversation is kind of null and void anyway. So seeing all these new companies kind of come on board is just massive for us, and I think it becomes like a snowball effect. The more people who get involved, the more you can branch out, and
absolutely it is.
And you just become a bit of a bigger name, which, as I said before, is something that we have to fight hard to do.
Cool, thanks for that. Totally agree, because I've sort of my own sort of background the last few years. I've sort of seen that snowball effect commercially, and it's definitely happening along Crendon. And the Long Crendon name is definitely more visible, and it's being heard in the community, and that's what it's all about, isn't it?
We've noticed you like a bit of social media, Carl. Don't worry about
that. Just a bit, yeah. So audience questions, right? So this one, you can probably work out who this comes from. High up, there's a clue. So aspirations for this season and beyond at Long Crendon Football Club.
Aspirations for this season are that we overachieve, that hopefully I think a good goal for us is to try and get in that playoff zone. If we could get in that top 5, that's a realistic aim for us. We've seen most of the teams in the league now. We know there's not a lot to choose between them, so I don't think you could by any means say that we're nailed on for that. But I don't think that either, on the other flip side of it, there's no one that I've seen so far that I would fear within the league. I think Winslow were as good as anyone, and we beat them in the cup. So why can't we compete with anyone? It's just about finding that consistency over the season. And in the short term, it'd be great to put up another good showing in the Berks and Bucks against Aylesbury. Realistically, we're not going to go and win that competition, but that is a glamour tie for us. And if we've got a 5% chance of causing a shock in that, what an opportunity. And you've got some real big boys coming in the round after that. But more than anything, it would just be, we obviously played them in the FA Cup a year ago, so it'd be a nice way to kind of gauge our progress. Can we give them a kind of bigger scare than maybe we did on that occasion? So that would be good. And to keep hold of all the players and keep them fit, just a more general thing. It's still like we lost Alex Farley, obviously our captain, Dino Bonwit. They're 2 like real key men for us over the last couple of years, and that has hurt us this season. We've obviously got some new players in, but I often think if we had those 2 as well, where might we be? Ben Sykes coming back at the weekend was obviously a big thing as well. It's horrible. Because again, I mean, I've played with Dino for years and years, and obviously Alex I've known and was my captain there for the last few years, and it's horrible seeing players like that on the sideline. So it'd just be nice to keep everyone fit. It just makes my job a hell of a lot easier. It's horrible knowing that there's people who are out of the equation and that you can't select. So for this season, I think they'd be kind of realistic aspirations. In the long term, I think you've got to try and aim to get to step 5 and try and make some more history. Get to step 5, get back in the FA Cup would be another big thing for us, which we probably would have to get promoted now to do with the kind of reorganisation around the country. Probably, if we stay in this league, it'd be very hard to get back in there. So, yeah, we've got to try and kind of push for that, and obviously then off the field, get back playing in Crendon at some point and get a ground in Crendon.
I think. Yep, sorry, technical glitch there. Can you hear me?
I can hear you coming through loud and clear.
Cool. Sorry, cool. It might have just been my end. But I did catch the end of that, and that is the long-term aim, isn't it, of the club, really? If they can get a facility or something, that really would secure the future. Because it's actually so difficult, though, isn't it, not being able to play in Long Crendon?
Yeah, I think I said it the other day when Alan Harris interviewed me for the non-league show. It's struck home this season because there's some clubs with some decent attendances in this league.
Yeah, there are.
Had a big crowd when we went over there. Stotfold will when we go over there in a couple of weeks, and a few others. And with the best will in the world, players will travel to Oxford City because they love the facilities and stuff. But it's only really the die-hard kind of supporters who will. We're not going to get that kind of floating voter, if you know what I mean. The kind of Crendon person who might wander down to the recreation ground and watch a game every now and again. And that's where you get your extra kind of like 20, 30, 40 people. And then word of mouth spreads, and actually then you start to get a decent crowd. They're not going to jump in their car. And I know it's not far to City and it's a great place to watch football, but people aren't going to just kind of jump in their car and watch a team. And I just feel like one of the things we're missing out on is that kind of like knowledge. I mean, like, this is obviously a massive thing for Long Crendon. Never played at this level before. How many people in the village actually really know about it? And it would be nice to be a bit of a kind of bigger presence around there. And unfortunately, that will never really happen until we get a ground back there.
Well, hopefully one day, because something will have to happen. It's just potentially it's just a case of when, isn't it? Hope.
There's lots of stuff going on, but again, I kind of stay out of that, and I don't want to get too I don't want to get my hopes up too early about that, because I've been through the similar process at Chinner and seen how long it can take. No, at the same time, look at the kind of facilities team have got and how quickly that's happened. So it can turn around quickly, but in the meantime, I just have to focus on making sure that we've still got a team good enough to kind of justify that at some point, and making sure that we're at a level where we still need a decent ground to play on, because if it all fell away, then they could go back to play on the rec in kind of the Oxford Senior League or whatever. So just want to make sure that doesn't happen.
So you mentioned team, right? So audience question. There's no doubt where this is coming from. What do you like most about Tom Foley?
It's a very short list. No, I'll be honest. Like, if someone obviously wants me to tear him a new one, or either that, or he's asked it himself. But I love his passion. To be fair, that's why we work well together. We are obviously quite different characters. We're probably a bit of an odd couple in a way, but one thing we've always bonded over is kind of our passion for kind of local football. And we ran the opposite Sunday sides in Chinner, where we were big rivals, and then we came together to kind of run when the kind of two teams merged. We kind of did that together. He was a big part of getting me to manage Chinner in the first place, and was kind of a key player for me then. And so when he was kind of interested in coming over, I knew he'd want to get involved off the pitch as well. He's great around dressing room for kind of getting everyone going. He's always hyped up on the Saturday morning. He's the first person who wants to text in the WhatsApp group and get everyone buzzing about the game. Don't worry, don't get me wrong, he can do your head in. Like, when he loves a phone call, Shrimps will tell you that he will get you on your case, and he won't take no for an answer. Your phone will literally be going off constantly. But what would you rather have? Someone who doesn't care, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so who's the biggest wind-up merchant?
Unfortunately, that would be Folly, 100%. I mean, Folly
he
literally lives for that stuff. It's a way of life to him, pretty much. But I think one of the good things, he's the first person to kind of welcome a new bloke into the change room, because once they've kind of dealt with one of Folly's wind-ups, they can pretty much handle anything, prepare themselves for anything. So I'd say Folly, yeah. Archie as well. Archie loves a bit of a wind-up. He's always got a good crack in the changing room. And
give us a story then. Give us a story, either Archie or Tom.
Oh, I don't think I can, because I can never do them justice. I knew you were going to ask me something like this, but I can't. Someone will have to put one in the comments or something. But
all right.
Nothing really springs to mind off the top of my head, and I worry I'll do it justice, and it won't do it justice, and it will fall flat. But no, I'd say those two. To be fair, they're two to watch your back when they're around.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that.
No.
So this one,
you need to watch yours, I think, as well. Where Foley's concerned, I think he's going to have you on the stick at some point, Carl.
Well, yeah, I have no doubt. I have no doubt. I like to think I've got him over a barrel though, but we'll see. So this one has actually come from one of the newest sponsors at the club. It's a 3B vehicle hire, and they are currently watching. So, hello, boss. Hello, Ross, the director of 3B. So his question was for you in particular. So, what sacrifices, personal sacrifices, do you have to make to be manager of Long Crendon?
Yeah, you do. It's mainly time. It's obviously the commitment of every Saturday, and I guess my missus would say as well. She's not really into football at all, which is quite good because it allows me to switch off and have a nice balance. Like, she cares about the result and whether we do well, but she's not really interested in too much beyond that. But I think what she would say is that it's not just. I think when we got together, she thought it was kind of going to be a 3-hour thing on a Saturday where you kind of turned up, played the game, got home. Whereas actually, I'm a pain in the ass to be around on Saturday morning because I'm stressed out and tense about the game and thinking ahead to that. Then I get home on a Saturday night. I'm usually waxed and just want to do nothing. And then on Sunday, I just want to relax as well because I'm usually tired out from Saturday. So it is a big commitment. And then obviously the weeknights as well, kind of getting home late after training and stuff like that. But then it's all the other times I know, like the WhatsApp group's always going off and things like that, and messages, thinking about squads for the next game, always checking in on players, whether they're fit. And so it's a full-time commitment. But at the same time, like it's like I love it. So I wouldn't want to be spending my time doing anything else. It's like I couldn't get the buzz that I get from some of the results we've had recently. Like I can't imagine doing anything else really. So I don't know whether I'll be still managing in like 20, 25 years time, because I might never get a better job than this in terms of like the way I'm allowed to work and the freedom I've got and the players and stuff. But I'll be involved in some capacity in football 100%. There's like, because it's just the thing I like to do really, and I can't imagine what else. I can't really imagine what else I'd do if I wasn't doing so. Like if I get a free Saturday, my first thought is what game can I go and watch? I was out last Tuesday night watching a game, like texting people saying, "Oh, do you want to come over and watch Buckingham Town Reserves and stuff like that?" So it's not like I'm not totally obsessed, but I'm also probably not far off it.
Yeah, that's life, isn't it? Football is life. Simple as that. So this one has come again from one of the sponsors, who are actually one of the newest sponsors, 313. Who obviously very, very kindly have sponsored the Long Crendon men and Long Crendon ladies and Long Crendon Reserves goalkeepers this season. So they've all got their branded victory goalkeeping gloves, which do look fantastic. As you said earlier, Josh hasn't really used them yet, so hopefully they'll come in good stead in the coming games. But they have asked, so regardless of money, right, which current football player, if you was able to sign them right now, would you have in your team?
Wow, that's
bear in mind, you're going to top someone. So,
which current player would I really, really like to have?
Which professional player?
I like Cancelo at Man City. I think because of the fact he can play in a number of different positions, especially playing at our level, you need those people who can play different positions. You don't have that big enough squad. Very intelligent player, so good on the ball. I might go for him. I know he's a bit the flavour of the month because he's playing so well at the moment this season. And probably Mo Salah as well, but I think maybe Cancelo because he's got
different gravy at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay. I wouldn't disagree with Mo Salah because he's arguably right now one of the best players in the world, isn't he? I'm mindful, Ryan, that it's now we've probably been talking for about an hour.
I know.
It's actually bang on 9:15. So I think you and I are going to have to say bye, and everyone else that's obviously joined us. But all being well, hopefully I'll be able to upload this onto YouTube shortly. But massive thank you, Ryan, for obviously giving up your time this evening and putting up with me for the past few weeks, pinging you messages for this, right, left, right, and centre, really, for updates and exclusives.
No, it's fine. It's great to have the interest. To be honest with you, you're welcome.
My pleasure, thank you. And hopefully, not just obviously, will I try and do a bit more to help raise the profile, and obviously, Liam and Emma will be working hard, Jez and Rich will be working hard, and hopefully, Long Crendon may be a bit more visible on Sports Shots. So for those that don't follow Sports Shots, so they're on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. They've got a website as well, sportshots.org.uk, and they cover grassroots sport in Buckinghamshire and Oxfordshire. Do give them a follow, do check out their content because it's great. And I know very recently their guys have been great in retweeting and resharing a lot of Long Crendon stuff. So there we go. So that's it, Ryan. Thank you for missing the Great British Bake Off final.
No worries, don't spoil it for me though, because I need to.
You are going to watch it? Okay.
Need to watch it on record, okay. Yeah.
Okay, mum's the word then. But thank you so much, Ryan. Enjoy what's left of the evening, and obviously I'll see you soon. And bye, everyone.
Catch you later. Cheers,
cool. Bye, everyone. Cheers.